What's going on, everybody? Just opened the channel, so I'm going to give just a few more minutes for people to kind of jump in here. I know it's Saturday, midday. It's the weekend for everybody. It's getting close to holidays here in the U.S. People may be traveling this weekend, starting next week. So we'll keep this relatively quick, and we'll just try to get a glimpse of what's going on in the market. So somebody out there that just signed in, if you just give me a sound check, let me know you guys can hear me okay. It's good to go. Cool. Thanks, Resolution. No problem. Thank you. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started then. Okay, so Bitcoin. Let's go ahead and start with Bitcoin. We'll get to the majors, Bitcoin and Ethereum, and then we'll check out altcoin dominance and altcoin market cap. See how the altcoin market is shaping up from a weekly standpoint. As far as altcoins and swing trading. I think we're kind of at that point now where it's time to just find some bottom altcoins and just hold them for several weeks. Because as some of you guys have seen, coins like Lind, I think that just went like 600%, which was a call that we had 2 months ago. So in 2 months, it went 650% or so. And of course, if you were playing on CoinDCX at 4x leverage, that would have been about 2,000, 2,400% profits. So those are like some 2017 altcoin alt season gains right there. TNT was another one that went on a big run, and I think it even took a month and a half to go. RCN, and then there's a few others. VET is already moving quite nicely. So I think we're just at that point now where it's time to find some bottomed out altcoins that are coming out of accumulation phases and just swing trade them. Just hold them. Not worry about the day-to-day prices, and just hold them for a couple weeks to a month, because it's taking that long for some of these altcoins to go on some pretty serious runs. So lots of profit to be made with altcoins right now. At the same time, we're watching Bitcoin. Bitcoin does have some opportunities and has had some pretty good trades here. Here we are. Let's see. 22 days. So we're now 3 weeks now from that big 40% pop that Bitcoin has had, and we're slowly retracing. So it's had some pretty decent moves. And we've been following this pretty well every step of this way and trying to catch as many of these calls as we can. And so here was a good move from here up to here, and then we called the short here, and now we're down here. So it's got a few A few decent plays in it, but I think altcoins right now is where the big money is going to be played, the big profits, and so forth. But we're still, of course, going to follow Bitcoin and Ethereum. Okay, so this little squiggly line that we drew here about 4 or 5 days now, looks like it played out, or is playing out almost exactly to plan. We started to see a divergence on the 6-hour chart somewhere right around here. That wick up right there looked so promising that the divergence was going to play on that 4 or 6 hour time frame. And then it got that Darth Maul wick down. But the divergence is not really invalidated. So there's no divergence here on the RSI, as both the price is making a lower low and the RSI is making a lower low. However, the OBV is diverging here. So here's our low on the OBV, and we got that one little tick up there. So it's making a higher low. So it's still diverging on the OBV and, of course, our MACD. Look at our MACD trying to get some strength. So this is about that point that we should see our pop or a little bounce or whatever. So I'm still holding to this target right here in between the red lines. Still holding to about 9,100, retest of 9K, 9,100 for resistance to watch for another rejection. And I think we had a scam wick target, so to speak, of retesting all the way as high as 9,400. So if anybody remembers, we had our 2 orange boxes here for our range high zones and our range low zones, and noted that anything in between here excuse me, anything in between here in this mid-range was real tricky to play unless you're an experienced scalper going down to like 15-minute time frame. And it has proven to be, because this was a lot of chop while still making some lower highs and lower lows there. And now it looks like we are looking at this pop right here. We're missing a bounce. I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys we are missing a bounce right here in this structure. Now, we do also want to note that there is a possibility that this can only come up as high as 8,800 to retest this top of this wick right here, and also could potentially fail. So it really depends on what the big boys want to do with this, whether if they want to grind it and to get this bull reset and just kind of work its way, snake its way up over the next week or so, 2 weeks, and then drop it. Which would give the MACD the reset it needs. So all the MACD has to do is just come up ever so slightly to turn green, and then they can drop it again. And I say that because our overall higher time frames are still quite bearish. So we don't want to expect or think we're going to see some kind of crazy ass push up here to 11K. So let's go check out and see what those high time frames look like. Okay, so we are still in a heavy downtrend here on the 2-day. Look at the 2-day about to cross back under bear here on that MACD. OBV is still in a downtrend. RSI is still in a downtrend. Don't worry about these little marks right here. These little black ticks. They go with that 8-hour chart that we were just looking at. But we're still in a heavy downtrend. But again, we are still missing that pop. We're still missing a bounce out of this. I know, Jimmy said 10.5. I mean, like, completely. I don't know how many times he said that for the last 3 weeks in this whole range. 10.5, 10.5. Bro, we couldn't even close over 9,500. I don't know why he was screaming, we're just going to jump all the way up here. But, okay, whatever. 3-day, still also in a heavy downtrend. But we, like, again, guys, let's not get too complacent with shorts because we are missing a bounce. And I would still like to see, I think this would be an ideal zone right here to at least come up and test 9,100. So if you guys remember what I shared, I'm just going to go to Bitstamp here. If you guys remembered what I shared in the calls channel about the moving averages and why I was overly bearish. Okay, so look at, let's see, we're going all the way back now to August. look at how the 7-day moving average here, this green line, the 7-day moving average has held each one of these price candles here under it as resistance. And every time any kind of bullish pop we got on the lower time frames came up to meet the 7-day moving average, it forced it back down as resistance. And now this is a pretty nasty push down. You can see, you can't really see the tip of that 7-day moving average, but it's right here behind this candle, and it's forcing it down. So the overall trend is still quite heavy down. Let's see, this date on this is the 11th. So we may not get a bounce for a while, because that means that this candle, October 28th, that means this candle, we will not see a new 2-week candle until the 25th. So that, and yeah, so we won't see a new 2-week candle until the 25th. So that's like, what day is that? Holiday, Thanksgiving, excuse me. Yes, thank you. That's Thanksgiving. So that kind of leans to, it's like we were looking for that bounce maybe up to 9,100, which would throw this whole candle back bull. However, since we are in a heavy downtrend and this is a nasty drop candle, if we were to go back to this 8-hour, let me turn that off. And that's why I said we may only see as high as 8,800 as well. It could also just kind of work its way up like I showed a minute ago, reject at this resistance zone and not ever come back up this high to drop back down. Okay, so I say that because of that 2-week candle there. Why did it turn off? Oops. And I say that because of the size of this 2-week candle, and that's a pretty big drop candle that is being forced down by the 7-day moving average. So if we were going to hit that 9,100 mark, we'd put the price somewhere up here, which would turn this into a full bullish candle. So if instead we did not reach that and we only hit that 8,800 mark, it's much more plausible for this candle to only catch a small time frame up and turn that into like a half a wick or something, and then before the close of the next candle force it back down and continue the downtrend. So as I noted in the calls channels when I was showing or kind of walking you guys step by step of how to read this moving average crossovers, there's nothing bullish here. There is nothing bull. If we look all the way back here from June, we are consistently making lower highs, a lot of wick rejections. The overall trend is down. Our 7-day moving average curled over hard right here, and it's forcing all of these candles down under it as resistance. So then that's when I pointed out, if we see what happens, or if we note what happens, when the green line, the 7-day moving average, crosses under this blue line, it's a confirmation of the trend. So if we see all the way back here, back in May of last year, when that 7-day moving average crossed bearish underneath the 20-day moving average, it was a continuation of that trend pattern that led us all the way down to 3K. So now this structure here is not as large as this structure from the all-time high. So that's what kind of leads me to believe, or let me draw it again, that we will cross under and just slowly work its way down, and then we'll try to probably test support off of that 100-day moving average and catch a bounce as the 100-day moving average comes up. And don't worry about my lines right there, that's ugly. And then note what happens when price action, I don't want to use green, I've got green from my, so note what happens with price action as that 7-day moving average meets the 100-day moving average. So that's why I had as a repeat kind of pattern. Now depending on what happens with the candle, a candle could wick just below the 100-day moving average and still count it valid. It's just the 7-day moving average is what's key. If the 7-day crosses below the 100-day moving average, then it would find the next support even deeper off of the 200-day moving average, which would in fact push that price down to that $1,000 to $2,000 range, and all those hyperware people from last year will jump up and scream, shout, and everything. So we're playing this moving average by moving average. So what we're looking for now over the next probably few months here. So here we are. We're looking at that March time frame, which I noted $4,100 by spring, going right up into halving, somewhere right around here in that 4K range. Somewhere like that. So as the 7-day comes down and meets that 100-day moving average, depending on how big these price candles are as it snakes its way down, it could just scam wick it down, fill those longs, and then bounce as the 7-day bounces off of it. So I don't see anything bullish whatsoever so far on this chart. I mean, if you just zoom that out and look at it, this is really, really ugly. Even 3 week. Look at the MACD on the 3 week. Look at this. That is clear going under. Now again, I don't want to jump to conclusions, but look at the drop candle on it as well. Horrible drop candle. And again, for this to go full bull, I just don't understand why people are still screaming bull. Now that's just looking at one indicator here. This is looking at the weakness of the histogram here. That's looking at these MACD lines, this blue line, this orange line. When it crosses under here like this, like it did up here from the all-time high. So when this crosses back under, then that means that we are not whatsoever in a bull market. We're in an extended bear market, and we're just going to come down and snake down, or something that's supposed to be green. Snake down and come down to something to that extent, and that's going to put us right around that $4,000 mark here to meet the 100-day moving average on the 3 week. So, and this I think is, I don't think halving is really going to do much of shit, to be honest. I think we're past the point of hopium. I think we're past the point of institutions, oh, they're going to buy this up. Because what I've seen on pretty much every big crypto Twitter account when they're comparing previous bull cycles and crossover moving averages over here and everything, is futures markets were not introduced until like right here, somewhere off of this candle in November. So that's game over. I hate to break that to people of Twitter, even though they don't want to listen because they're still just looking at the overall supply of Bitcoin. There's only 21 million. China's backing blockchain. Yeah, China's backing blockchain, but they're not mentioning Bitcoin. Not to say that Bitcoin is by any means going to die or whatever. But we're just keeping an open mind and an open bias, and we're just playing what the chart tells us and not what Twitter says, because they've gotten this seriously wrong pretty much this entire time. And looking at just this 3 week candle, looking at the size of that 3 week candle, that is that's a drop candle. I honestly don't understand why there's so many people still bearish. Still bullish. So if Bitcoin is to survive and the futures markets suppress the price, keep the price down, then this whole period right here that we are going to consolidate, looks like up through 2021 or so, this is the time that Bitcoin is going to have regulations. It's going to have infrastructure put in place, for mass payment systems and ATMs and swipe cards or whatever it is that the Bitcoin network or blockchain cryptocurrency network is going to develop for mass adoption. It'll happen within this phase here. And then once everything is ready, and then blockchain can say, you know what, we're ready. Open the floodgates. Then we'll probably start to see the futures markets and mass adoption. Governments will open up to cryptocurrencies and allow their citizens to buy in and use the networks, use the systems. So there's just nothing that's going to convince me that we're just going to bounce from here and start going up to 30K, especially just looking at the chart itself. I mean, this is really, really ugly candle right there. So that's Bitcoin on a high time frame. Now if we went back, of course, here to our lower time frames, a little bit more local. If we're playing this, we're going to, of course, play this step by step. I wouldn't expect anywhere higher than 9,100 unless there's some kind of bullish news or something that comes out and exchanges use that as an excuse to pump the price up even higher to trap the bulls again, exactly like they did right here. Because if you guys remember, this 40% pump was off that China news, and China never even mentioned Bitcoin to begin with. They were referencing a state-backed blockchain off of the yuan, the Chinese currency, Chinese fiat currency. Didn't even mention Bitcoin, but exchanges and miners or whoever use it as an excuse to catch a 40% pump. But in the near term, we are due for a bounce here because this is a falling wedge pattern. You can even say this is a bull flag. And so far, our indicators are all... Did I just delete all my other indicators? I did. So high time frames, guys. We are overall bearish. So we're not expecting any kind of crazy pumps or anything coming. What did I have? I had OBV on. Okay. Yep, so on a 2-week, 3-week level, we're still heavily bearish. Coming down here to the 8-hour time frame, we are missing a bounce here, and as noted, we are in a slight bullish divergence right here on the OBV. So we are missing that bounce. So these are what the targets are going to be here. I'm going to go ahead and delete this out. Kind of clean up a little bit of the clutter. I know a lot of people are waiting for this 8,200 range. And I think they may get front ran because I think when we were down here at 7,400 before this big pop, I think everybody was looking for 72 down here off of this wick. So I'd be very, very cautious of waiting for that 8,200 before buying in, unless this just kind of snakes its way down and then catches that pop. But I'd be very cautious that bulls are going to get front ran right there. Okay, so this is Bitcoin. All right, so Ethereum. Let's go check out Ethereum. This one has absolutely pissed me off to no end. So we were in this pennant here. You can consider this an ascending triangle as we were making higher lows right here. At the same time, we were failing to break the top of this resistance. So this little pattern here is an ascending triangle. And typically in an ascending triangle, it does this little pattern here. And this is what we were waiting on. But the bastard finally did break down. It was giving us a lot of mixed signals, false signals, even on higher time frames, because even the daily looked bullish that wanted to pump up here to 205. So this was really, really annoying. But it looks like it finally broke down. We were expecting, if it did fall out of this wedge, we were expecting as low as 174. And it looks like we got 178 right here. So let's see on the daily. Daily is still rolling bear. And then note what I meant, or what I was talking about with moving averages here. So now we see the 7-day moving average. It's fighting here off of this 100-day moving average. So it looks like it crossed over it bullish, but then it looks like it's now in a deep downtrend. It wants to cross back under that confluence right there where all three of these moving averages meet. And then you can see what I'm talking about here when I was talking about price action coming down to meet that 100-day moving average. When I was talking about the 2-week on Bitcoin, snaking down and catching that wick below. But the price candle closed and held above there. So this would be indicative that the 7-day is going to come down and just scoop and then push up. So we would consider 174 if price got a close between, a close under right here, a close under that 100-day moving average. And I think if I remember correctly, the weekly was bull on ETH. Ooh, that's kind of at a cross patterns of it's not sure. So the OBV right here topped out on the weekly. The OBV is in a downtrend. The RSI is just kind of stuck right there in the center. This is one of those mixed signals kind of thing here. The 7-day got that kick back up and with this candle before the dump. So this was given that bullish signal right there. So we'll see if we have anything other that can back up a bullish case. Our 7-day is crossed over the 100-day moving average there, and it looks like it's fighting over that 20-day moving average there. This is the 4-day chart. So I'm just flopping between time frames to try to build a narrative to see which one is going to give a clearer signal, and it's kind of mixed across the board. So we may have to see what Satoshi has for his count on this to see what he's got. But the rejections here and the candles making a lower high right here does not paint a good picture for the bulls. So we still may very well see that 174 to test support. So we did break the wedge. We did break the ascending triangle. We are putting in lower highs here. This was a great wick right here though. However, it's not looking too pretty here on the MACD and the OBV. So we could still... Why does it keep changing it to pink? We could still catch that one last drop to test that support and then catch a push up. ETH, as far as price action wise, Ethereum is showing me a lot of mixed signals. So I'm a little bit on the fence about this one, to be honest. Okay, so we'll check with Satoshi. I'm sure he's got a better Elliott wave count because Satoshi is the ETH god. So he may have a better answer than I do. But price action wise for ETH, a lot of mixed signals across different time frames. It's not as clear as Bitcoin is. Okay, so let's check out Bitcoin market, or the dominance, so we can start looking at some altcoins. Alright. Falling wedge came up and tested that resistance dead on, as we called, and here we are now retesting this support. I don't like these doji candles right here. This is actually kind of suggestive that dominance is holding this support, and if it does not start to fall below into the mid to lower 60s, that means it could catch another bounce, and altcoins could get some low time frame drops. So we still really need to see, I don't want to see anything higher than 69 again. We still need to see a heavy downtrend here. Weekly, weekly shows a good downtrend still. I'm not too worried about weekly. Look at the 7-day there, crossed under the 20, fighting right there against the 200-day moving average, still showing a strong downtrend. Looks much uglier if we turn off, just erase everything. Looks much better here. Heavy downtrend on the MACD, heavy downtrend on the OBV, RSI. Look at the sell volume on the dominance there, so it's still showing a clear downtrend. Beautiful right there. Look at the 2-week about to go under. So this is still good news for alts. There's going to be some lower time frame bounces, lower time frame pushes, which is kind of drop alts on low time frames. But going into the rest of the year, probably all the way up until spring, we'll come down here and test this 50 area. So I think between now and spring are actually going to be quite good for altcoins. So I would certainly take advantage because there are still some, yeah, Altcember, yeah. Still a lot of great setups for alts across the board. Okay, so let's go look at some. Okay, so let's start off with Zilliqa. Okay, so it's been a while, I believe, since we had updated ZIL. I think when we were looking at it last, let me zoom out to daily here. I think when we were looking at it last, we had noted that this red zone right here was the local resistance that was holding the whole structure down. And this is going to look exactly the same across the board on altcoins. You got all these bottom patterns, all this sideways price action, all this accumulation, and then this one last little drop, which is called the spring, if you are into wick-off patterns. So all altcoins across the board are breaking out of this accumulation pattern and starting some reversal trends. So this red zone was the local resistance holding the structure down, and we noted ZIL needed a close above this zone for confirmation of an uptrend, and we certainly got it. So now we want to see this red zone now hold as support and pull an SR flip, support resistance flip. And it looks like we're getting it right there at 74.75. It was a pretty decent little pop right there. So if we zoom out to weekly, look at this weekly trend. This is very, very nice. Look at the 7-day right there. Nice hard curl up. Now, opposite of that 2-week Bitcoin chart where the 7-day was pointing down and forcing the candle down, this is the opposite. So the 7-day now has that candle as support and is pushing. So this is a very, very strong weekly setup, and it's actually, quite honestly, probably really just getting started. Look at your OBV about to cross up bull. Your RSI got a very nice tick up. Now again, I know I hate to keep rubbing myself in this. Let's go back to Lind. Well, actually, hold on. Let's do this. Bear with me just a second here, guys. I'm just kind of zooming in and kind of showing a little bit of a comparison between structures here. Okay, so Lind even had this accumulation pattern down here at the bottom, which is what we're seeing right here on ZIL. Okay, so if we were kind of match that up, maybe we're probably right here for ZIL. Okay, yeah, this one's still ZIL. Okay, so I mean, this is still in a strong uptrend. This was monstrous. Let me just go back here to where I got liquidated. It took me out somewhere around there. Okay, so that's about 550% run. So if we were to compare this breakout structure on Zilliqa, this is the accumulation pattern down here in the yellow, so we can match that up. We've got a strong weekly candle right here on Lind, which is probably somewhere right around there. ZIL may catch just a small bearish candle going into next week to consolidate after that push, or it may not. It may just continue its uptrend and continue anyways. So if we, and then again, look how long. And this is why I'm telling you guys at the beginning of this live stream, we're at that point now where you find a bottomed out altcoin and you just swing trade it for a couple weeks. So let's look at the accumulation patterns here. Okay, so 77 days, almost 3 months there. 84 days, maybe if we went back to this candle before the uptrend or something, 84 days. So all these coins had been consolidating in these accumulation ranges for about 3-4 months maybe before breaking out. VeChain was no different. It's another one that just broke out. So if we were to compare these similar type runs here, We got some nice confluence candles up there for a great swing hold. So we can, swing it all the way up there. Honestly, I don't even know why Lind pumped so much. I haven't seen any fundamentals out about it. Nobody shilled it, except for us, of course, because we called it down here at 50, right around 50 Satoshi. So we called this thing at the bottom, and I'm not sure if anybody played it. So there's still a lot of potential for ZIL. I mean, if you look at this very, very similar structure, and this is going to be what altcoins look like across the board. Let me go and just get rid of, there we go. So if we look at altcoins across the board, we're going to see this similar pattern. So there's no point in really spending a whole lot of time looking at a bunch of them. So ZIL, I'm going to say, is a great swing trade. It's got the setup. And it's holding some support zones pretty nice. You might, if Bitcoin makes a move, you might catch somewhere in the lower 70 ranges. But it looks like ZIL is well on its way for a nice reversal. I would watch this close if this is one that you want to play, and see if we can't pull an SR flip right here off of this bottom line right around the lower 70s or so. So that's ZIL. ZIL still, like I said, looks great, breaking out of the accumulation pattern. Broke this resistance zone here, so now we want to watch. Oh, maybe not that low. My mouse kind of did that. Something to that nature, and continue an uptrend. And of course, our next target is going to be up here around about 100 Satoshi or so. Okay, so next up is AGI Singularity. And I posted some news, some fundamentals, some news or whatever that they just had out just the other day. Is they integrated PayPal into their blockchain-based artificial intelligence marketplace. So if anybody knows anything about AI or AGI, it's not a particular coin that is artificial intelligence and does one thing. It's a marketplace that allows artificial intelligence to communicate with one another, to exchange data and exchange currencies with one another. So it's like, I don't know, I guess you could say it's like Walmart. And inside of a Walmart, what do you have? You have everything: clothes, jewelry, groceries, of course, hunting gear. So Walmart, I guess, in a sense, is a marketplace. And AGI, in its sense for artificial intelligence, is the same thing. So it's a protocol or database that all artificial intelligence can communicate and exchange ideas and data and payments and whatnot. And so they integrated PayPal into their network, which is very, very bullish news both for PayPal and for AGI, because it allows... is going to allow for a more adoption for AGI and bring more awareness to the coin. So let's look at the chart here. We've already had this as a call. Pretty nice weekly structure, very nice strong weekly candle. We do have a new weekly candle tomorrow. Not saying that this is just going to moon from here. It may kind of scrape just a little bit more above 250 or so. Good pushback up here on this candle. Now note the OBV. So this entire time that AGI has been in this accumulation zone down here, you see the volume dropping off, but the OBV is in an uptrend. The OBV is in an increase. And if anybody remembers the video that I did on OBV, or on balance volume, on balance volume differs from volume because volume only shows you the volume itself in each candle, but OBV shows you, or tells you rather, whether if money is going into or leaving a security. So in this case, even though our volume is dropping off and we're in this accumulation zone, it's mostly buying. So money has been flowing into the coin, and we look like we're about to cross bullish there. across into bullish territory for the OBV, and there's a nice uptick as well on RSI. So strong uptrend on indicators. This has also set itself up for a good swing trade. I think we looked at the 2-day yesterday. Okay, so here our 2-day is in that bullish territory. I'd like to see, again, with the relationship of the 7-day moving average, I'd like to see the 7-day moving average push a candle up above the 20-day moving average, and that'll give us some more confidence and more strength in the trend that it's going to go bull. So I've been in since about 245 Satoshi or so, somewhere kind of right here in this bottom zone right here. So still sitting in a little bit of profit. I should have sold up here and scalped it. I think that was a pretty good profit for a scalp, but I'm going to swing trade this and let this puppy ride, especially with the news that they got out now with PayPal. 3-day still showing an uptrend. Look at the 3-day OBV right there, just crossing into bullish territory. So this looks like it's shaping up to be a pretty good swing trade. And again, this could take, of course, several weeks to start playing out and maybe hit all the way up here to 600 Satoshi. Okay, so 150% profit potential. On DCX, that's times 4, so this is almost 750% profit, 750% profit on a swing trade with 4x. So I'm going to let this ride and just let it go. So good, nice swing trade setup, just patiently waiting for it to move. So that's AGI. Now Theta's also looking at some strides here, and they were at that same conference or whatever that Tron was at, where Tron was doing something with Samsung that ended up in a flop or whatever. But Theta was also there, and Theta had partnered with Samsung VR, or they're integrating with Samsung VR for the Samsung smart TVs to bring the Theta network to the new 4K smart TVs or whatever. And here you are, the co-founder of YouTube, giving a good shout out. And the co-founder of YouTube is bullish on Theta network. Here he is talking about HD and 4K streaming services from the Theta network. So they got a lot of good fundamentals out for Theta. Of course, Pew or whatever the hell his name is, whatever big YouTube gamer dude or something, whatever. He's moved his platform over to the Sliver TV as well. So gaining some traction for Theta. So like every other coin that we've seen so far, a weekly chart, accumulation pattern, showing a pretty good weekly candle right here. And look at the convergence here of the 7-day and the 20-day. Look how close they are to each other. That little pinch right there. So I would expect this to gain some traction starting into next week. I'd like to see that 7 cross over that 20, and that would give some confirmation that we're going to finally might catch a reversal and start getting some new highs on there. And let me go ahead and set some targets. Okay, obviously we're going to come up and test up there. Test the wick up there. So Theta's got a good setup as well here. I like the weekly, and I think I noted, or we looked at the 2-day chart, excuse me, last night, and noted that there is a bull cross coming here on the 2-day chart. Look at the OBV catching that big strong uptrend, and the RSI curling back up as well. So it's got a pretty good strong 2-day candle, but again, it's got to get the crossovers on the moving averages to really start show that reversal strength. Other than that, I think Theta's got a good setup. So, I mean, this is another swing trade for me, just patiently waiting. Weekly showing a strong bounce here on the OBV as well. All right, move on to Wan Chain. All right, so the WAN chain has been one that we've been following, or I've been following for quite some time too. I think it was probably around this area right here. And WAN chain is getting some pretty decent movement now. This has almost followed this curve damn near to a T from whenever it was that I charted it last. And what I was looking at, or what I pointed to on one of the last updates, is this could form one really big cup and handle right here, and you can see that formation. So for this to be a valid cup and handle, going into next month, come up here and retest the high of this wick, fall back down, and then that's all she wrote. All she wrote. Not coming back down after that. So this is a clear and a beautiful cup and handle situation. So there's a clear left side of the cup. The bottom of the cup, it's not, you don't see any of this crap up here and then another bounce here and then someone try to claim that it's going to cup. That's not what a cup and handle does. A cup and handle is going to form, or at least the cup part, is going to scrape this bottom just as it's doing and flatten out the price there in accumulation. So all of this here underneath this 2830 is an accumulation pattern to form the bottom of this cup, and now it's starting to kind of round out and get some traction to form the right side. If anybody remembers Vibe from last year, Vibe did exactly this, just on a much lower time frame. It did it on a, I think we were looking on 2 or 3 hour time frame. Here, WAN is doing it on daily. And it's got a pretty strong setup here. Now, if we go back out to weekly uptrend, look at the OBV. OBV is still in an uptrend. RSI showing some strength. One nice little dark green histogram right there, but look at the candle. Look at that candle right there. Very strong candle. And again, 7-day moving average. Look how it's pushing that candle up now as support into the 20-day moving average, and this little pinch right here means something has to give. It's pressure, if you will. So all these doji candles here were the accumulation, and so if this were, I don't know, maybe Satoshi wants to put an Elliott wave on this. If this was the start of a new 5-wave impulse, I guess. So this would be 1, 2, and 3 all the way up here or something, and then whatever. And WAN chain has a whole lot of fundamentals coming out next month. They have a lot of updates. Now, I'm not saying this is what this structure is going to do or anything, because y'all know that's not my forte, some Elliott waves. But given how every altcoin is breaking out of these accumulation patterns and crossing over that 20-day moving average and going on absolutely insane runs, it may not be too far-fetched to say that this could come all the way up here and test this weekly resistance up here in this confluence for 250% profit potential. Slap a 4x on that and let that ride for a couple weeks, and you're looking at, see, 450% times 4. You're looking at a 10x. That would be a 10x if WAN went 250%. So it's a very, very strong weekly candle. Can't deny that. The 7-day moving average is pushing this candle up and testing the crossover of that 20-day moving average, which is also a very, very bullish sign. So zoom down in. Let's see if we can catch a reset. Let's see if we can catch a buy-in. I don't think it's going to come back down to 2,600. Let me see what hourly shows. Okay, so hourly, look at that quick uptrend right there. So this is going to come down. I would probably try to grab around 2630 or so. See if you can't catch that and let that puppy ride. We'll see how this one develops. We may get a harsh rejection here, and we may test 2600 as support. But that is a really, really strong weekly candle, and it does look good the way that it's pushing up on that 20-day moving average there. Really, really strong stuff right there. So I still like WAN for a swing trade, and it looks good. I'm actually really, really shocked and surprised how well it's followed this little curve that was drawn for I don't know how long. Okay, so that's WAN. That's WAN. No, there's been no change to this since we charted it or started charting it back here in October sometime. So we're still a month into this chart and no change, no major breakdown. Okay, so let's move to Wabi. If you guys have any altcoin requests, go ahead and shout them out. And we can look at them because pretty well all altcoins are showing these exact same similar structures, these exact same breakout patterns. So this is the time to start finding your favorite altcoin or whatever, finding one that has good updates coming out, and just swing trading them and holding them. Okay, so Wabi's had a pretty decent run so far. From this bottom here, if I can get my thing right. Okay, so Wabi's had about 150% run already, and look how it just walked its way up. There was no major breakout, no 300% single candles, and this is going to be the reality of crypto trading now. Until there's mass adoption and until there's a new flux of new money coming in, we're just not going to see, 300% candles anymore. You may catch them every now and then on one or two coins, but for the most part, this is going to start trading a little bit more closely to traditional markets, and you're just going to have to sit there and hold, because look at Wabi. Wabi did almost 200% or so in 3 months. And I know that's going to test a lot of people's patience. But Wabi is still showing an uptrend here. There's not really showing any weakness so far on the weekly time frame. So I want to see come up and at least test up here. So there's another 50% potential there. I think this may be a little too high to expect. But it's certainly possible because everything else is doing it. Something like that. Okay, so CMT. Yeah, CMT. I thought I had this one up here already. I guess not. Okay, so CMT is no different. I wish they had some more fundamental stuff coming out for them. But I mean, yeah, it's no different than anything else. You got the accumulation pattern. Look at this. Look where this accumulation kind of bottomed out and started all the way back in September. So we're going back about 2 months here before we're breaking out now. So this was the accumulation zone right here, and this was the break. So this is similar to what ZIL did. Broke this accumulation pattern, and now it's finding support over that accumulation pattern. So now what we want to see is we want to see this just kind of start to snake its way up, and then fall back, and then pull another SR flip. Yeah, I mean, I always have your stop losses. I kind of jumped the gun on CMT about 2 weeks ago right here because this was a very strong candle, and it sucked me in because I'm like, oh God, this is about to do something like that. So I've been in CMT since about like 240, 245 or so, all the way back here. So it was a bad entry. And I finally broke even right here, but I didn't sell because, I'm swing trading it. I promised myself I'm going to swing it. So I'm still sitting in a loss on it right now. Let me go back. But look at the weekly. Weekly is showing a pretty good uptrend. Let me delete that. And turn on. Okay, so here we are now. Look at the price action candles of the last 2 weeks. They are held above that 7-day moving average as support. So all of these candles here, when they're underneath that 7-day moving average, it's holding it down as resistance. And then now we're at that point where alts are catching some candles and breaking above and holding above the 7-day moving average as support. So now the 7 days is just going to start to work these candles up in a perfect world anyways. So if that's the 7-day there, why is that? No, let's not make those. Let's make those purple. So we want to see something like that. We want to see these price candles now going over the next few weeks still hold above the 7-day as support and start an uptrend as the 7-day snakes its way up to, because again, this is what all altcoins are doing right now. Now that's not to say that this won't catch a little dip and still hold above 200 Satoshi on the next weekly candle and then push it back up. It doesn't mean that the next candle tomorrow, could open here and then just start a push. It could dip to, 210 or 200 or so, catch a quick dip and then push, which would force it into a wick, kind of like the bottom of this candle right here. But the overall trend is looking pretty good for CMT. So these targets still stand here. These are shorter term targets. Even from current price, my mouse is still jacked. And then for a nice long swing trade, a lot of altcoins that are breaking out of their patterns are coming up and testing heavy broken support zones from last year, which would put this at about almost a 200% gain from current price. So there's still a lot of potential to be made. And CMT is not one of those coins that it really gets talked about a whole lot on Twitter, yet somehow they have like 300,000 people following them. I think, let me see, Cyber Miles. Yeah, so they got almost 300,000 followers, which is kind of blowing my mind because I don't ever see anybody shilling it. I don't see anybody talking about it, not anybody hardly tweeting about it or anything, but they still seem to be very active and they still seem to be doing some updates and pushing their project forward. And like Lind that just went almost 600% is another coin that nobody talks about, nobody watches, nobody follows, but yet still went on a monstrous tear. So, I mean, we're just at that point where altcoins are breaking out accumulation patterns and are going to start seeing some reversals. So this is a nice weekly chart so far. I don't see any major breakdown. I don't see it dropping down to 199. Now, to kind of back up your question resolution, yes, of course, I do have stop losses. I do have liquidation prices since I am margin trading. I think since I was up here, I think around 244, 245 or so, my liquidation I think is like 200. But I do have cash on reserves. So if there is a threat to kind of test my liquidation zone, or liquidation price rather, I can always add to that margin and drop that liquidation price, down here to the 170s or so. Yes, this would be a steep loss, holding for that loss, but I mean, like Lind liquidated me and then went on a 600% run the following weeks. So I do have stop losses, so I am protecting myself, and I do have cash on hand in the event that I do need to add to that margin to protect it, because either taking the stop loss and losing, you know, a couple $100, $1,000, a couple $1,000 or whatever is a lot better than getting liquidated. But I can also just add to that margin and put a couple $100 into that margin to just lower my liquidation price to, you know, somewhere down here near these lows. Because if you look at the structure all the way back in September, it's only gotten this one wick down here below the major support. But every candle close has held here above 191. So I can, if I wanted to right now, I can easily just go ahead and just add to that margin and put my stop loss or liquidation below these candle closes for support. But that's how I'm playing it, though. That's how I'm managing my positions for my margins. Whatever you guys are comfortable with, please just make sure that you are protected and practicing risk management. But I'm not going to be overly too worried because now we have price candles here, again, above the 7-day moving average and also above our accumulation zone here. So it's not looking like any real threat, so to speak. Okay, so Sean, you want to look at Knowles. I mean, yeah, I mean, this is what I was talking about. I mean, every altcoin is looking like this right here now. Okay, so your accumulation pattern, and of course we can obviously see that Knowles did a 100% correction. Actually, it even made a new all-time low. So Knowles is back at listing price even still. But even still on the weekly, just as I showed you with CMT, all these price candles here, look at all of these closes and whatnot underneath the 7-day moving average as resistance. Now we have two candle bodies and candle opens and closes above that 7-day now as support, and it's showing an uptrend. Needs to get a close up above that 20-day moving average though, and it may not happen before the next candle by tomorrow. So in this case, Knowles, remember the relationship with moving averages, Knowles is fine right here above this red line, which happens to be about right where that 100-day moving average is. So it's not too terrible. I wouldn't fret or worry too much. I mean, yeah, that's a 9% drop. But if you're swing trading it, I mean, it's a swing trade. You don't care about day-to-day prices. I think you can maybe wait, though, and see if it tests this support line right here and get a better buy-in. 2 hour looks like it wants to get a wee bit of a pop, though. Look at that. Found support right there off of the 200-day moving average. And it hasn't lost the 100-day moving average on the 4 hours. So, I mean, it doesn't look too terrible. I'd probably honestly wait, though, to see if you can get a better price. Because if this doesn't bounce right here and not lose the 20-day moving average as support, you could probably catch it and watch it snake down here, and you might get a little bit better entry. But, I mean, yeah, the weekly looks fine for a swing. If you're already in and got a good price. Look at the 2-week. Nice candle right here on the 2-week over that 200 over that 7-day moving average. So it doesn't look bad. Your MACD looks bull here. Your OBV is going up bull. Oops. I'd like to see a little bit more strength in the RSI, though. It's still kind of riding flat. And of course, I'd like to see more volume as well. But the overall structure doesn't look too bad. So I would just make sure, Sean, that they have some good fundamentals still. They're still working on, updates, GitHub. Check their GitHub. See if they're still making changes or whatnot. This is not a coin that I particularly follow, so I don't know too much about any updates that they got coming out. DJ wants to look at XMR. Oh, but for I'm sorry, Sean. For a target on nulls, if you're swinging it, about 8,600 looks good. Ooh, holy crap! XMR is back to life. Look at Monero. Nice, not a bad weekly. Not too terrible. I remember the last time we looked at this, this was still just heavily bleeding. But your OBV did cross bull there. I'm not a fan. I mean, obviously the overall trend of the MACD is bull. So I wouldn't expect any kind of major push because it's still going to snake its way up and then come down, snake its way up. So the closer that the MACD lines here, this blue and orange line, the closer they are to the histogram is more solid, I guess you can say, of an indication that it's got a full reversal going on. So there's still this gap here between the lines and the histogram. They're not really close touching each other. See, like here, so it's snaked its way up, and then now we have the MACD lines kind of close or hugging that histogram for this bullish push, which is what we saw right here in this uptrend. So that was a good 23-24% push right there. So it snaked its way up, got that reset, and then it started a new uptrend, and you can see what happens with the price action there. So the weekly will do something similar. If I can catch this thing and delete it, there we go. So I'd expect the weekly to do something similar. Let me come up, come back down, and then consolidate again and build the new base and then push up. Just a little inside cheat on how the MACD works. It's not going to catch any kind of 500% pump with that gap there between the MACD lines and the histogram. However, this is showing signs of bottoming. 2-day shows an uptrend. Yeah, I mean, that pretty well makes sense right there. 2-day still showing an uptrend. It's kind of breaking some consolidation a little bit. I don't think it's fully ready yet, though. Hey, Plaz. No, I didn't do Walton Chain yet. We can give that one a look, though. I'm not gonna lie, though. I'm not a huge fan of Monero's chart right here. It's not showing the amount of strength that I'd like it to. I mean, it did cross over the 20-day moving average here. So if this doesn't just continue up and it does in fact catch a little small reset, roll back over, retest that 20-day moving average as support, and then catch a push. So that's about the only thing that Monero's got going for it, though, that it did break this little falling wedge. But at some point, whether if it comes up here and rejects off of the 100-day moving average here at about 8,400, it will fall back down and probably retest the backside of this trend line for a backline test. So you can also play it that way too. But I'm not a fan of that candle right there. That's kind of ugly. I'd probably sit Monero out just a little bit longer and see how that chart develops. Oops. Well, it doesn't look like much change has happened with Walton Chain here. I mean, these are still valid targets. Still a valid wedge break. I mean, there's just, where's the strength? There's just no strength whatsoever in these candles. These are some ugly doji candles. And this is a 2-day chart. Okay, 3-day, it's got that candle as support. However, it doesn't look very strong, and it won't be strong until it crosses over the 20-day there. So Walton Chain really needs to get over about 850, 860 and close, or it's just gonna be a bumpy ride. Other than that, I mean, the chart still stands as far as target wise, but I don't see anything that I mean, back here last time we looked at it, yeah, it showed a lot more strength, it showed some promise, but then it looks like it's just kind of failed and just blah. I mean, I think there's better plays out there unless something happens and somebody just pumps it. I know it's not a lot of help, Sean. Well, actually, let me go back to BAT on the weekly. Okay, so BAT on the weekly on the dollar pair. Well, there is your resistance. Look at that. You got 1, 2, 3, and now we're in the fourth candle underneath that 100-day moving average as resistance. So the 7-day crossed the 200 there, but now if there is no push and break over about 27 cents, if there's no close over 27 cents, then it's not going to be pretty for BAT. However, I do think it'll break it there because look at your 2-week. 2-week cross bull, bull on the OBV. Needs, it could use some more volume. I'm assuming that you're scalping, swinging. Let's see, how much did this go? Wow, BAT went 76% since October. It's not too shabby. Swinging, yeah, I mean, if you're swinging and you're not worried about day to day, I don't see too much. You're in from 17 cents. Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't even worry. You're up about 40% right now on the U.S. dollar pair. The only thing is you could throw a trend line on this, and you can probably use that as your gauge. It's like, all right, so if I can, let me get that candle body right there. I'm not a fan of this rising wedge right here. I really don't like that. Let me turn off the moving average so we can see the candles a little bit better. I don't like this rising wedge. I mean, it really just screams like it needs a reset. So if it fails here again and it falls out of the wedge, then it very well could come back down and test around 20 cents right here. Somewhere around right there. And then catch another push. But the 2-week looks bull. The weekly is struggling. And this is what I'm talking about right here. Look at this right here. So it did the same structure here. Big ass rising wedge. Got a little bit of a reset and then continued on its trend. However, it's very, very ugly. Looks like it might want to try to do the same thing there. If you're swinging it though, I probably wouldn't worry. Move your stop loss up. I'd probably put it up here around 23 cents or so. That way you can just lock in some profit in case that fails. Maybe slightly below 23 cents because if this were to fall and consolidate for the next push, this would be a good place to do it. Because you got that wick there, you got some candle wicks over and bodies over here, and you got this here, scraping the bottom here. So this would be the fallback point even. Maybe just to here and then pump instead of digging deeper around 20. I think if it reaches around 20 cents, it could kind of just sap the run and kill it. I was trying to play to 40 cents. What do you mean you're trying to get back in? I thought you said you were in from 17 cents. Wow, what a nice monthly. Well, maybe. Oh, to add more. I got you. Okay. Yeah, I mean the U.S. dollar pairs, I believe, are going to, or I believe, follow a little bit more closely to Bitcoin. The one thing that I do like about this 2-week chart right here, let me turn that green, is even though our MACD did cross back bull, we did not make a lower low. So we caught this support here and then bounced. So we're putting in a higher low right here. So I like that. So if this were to continue, come up, test that resistance, come back, and then maybe, you know, just snake its way up from there and push, like you said, up there to about 40 cents or so, and then maybe fall back to about 26 cents. So that's what the 2-week looks like, of course. So I could see this being plausible play as well. Ancient, have you done a chart on this? Have you plotted something yourself and see roughly something similar? Looking at Theta right now on mobile. Theta's looking pretty good. CMT on the hourly is looking pretty good. Okay, we'll come back to that. EOS. Why is this shitcoin still alive? Huh, well, what do you know? So whenever we looked at EOS last, we had a wedge for the OBV here, and it looks like it's broke that wedge. And looks like it broke this channel as well for resistance. I mean, it's got a pretty good, strong uptrend showing right there. I'm not even sure if I like this here. Everything else has fallen all the way back to all-time lows. But then again, the 2-week even looks good. Look at that 2-week wanting to cross over. Not a whole lot of strength yet on this candle. However, again, this candle's not going to close until next week. So let's see if lower time frames show us some push. Okay, so here is our resistance zone that it has to close over, because price candles here are matching the rejections and resistance here, which is matching this confluence over here. Now, even though we did break this little downtrend line right here, which is good, of course, this is the next obstacle. Now, it looks like that daily candle is trying to get a little push right here. So if this really needs to get that kick up and push over this zone right here, over 4,000, let's just call that 4,000. It's got to get over and close over that 4,000 mark to break this resistance. So it's got to get a push and then come back and fall and use that now as support. See if lower time frames back it up. Yeah, oh, well, maybe. Trying to get a little push right there. So it could be plausible that this gets that push. Let's look at 4-hour. That might be possible. I don't know. This target zone here is still valid. It still has to get a close over it. Or if you were to compare previous runs, look at this fractal right here. We'll change that color. So this is what I'd be afraid of. Okay, so this is, I mean, it's on a smaller scale right here, but it looks like it's in this same little uptrend push and then still rejected at that resistance zone and then falls back down. The MACD looks roughly similar. See here, you see a high peak here, this low peak, and then another push, which was this up here, and then this push up here, which was this structure here, and then now we're right around this area here, which would be this little piece right here, and this piece, which is this little piece that we're in. So like, again, yeah, I mean, if this doesn't break this resistance, then this could, maybe not that deep of a drop. I mean, if it could, you know, just fall back to a support zone there around 37 and then rebuild for the next push. But I mean, again, the weekly does show a pretty good uptrend, I'm not gonna lie. And look how perfect that played out. So if that were to get that quick low time frame drop to retest the support, it would literally touch the tip of that 7-day moving average right there and still hold that over as support. So that's pretty spot on. But again, I mean, it still looks like it's in an overall uptrend. Yeah, the high time frame doesn't look too shabby. But again, this is going to look like every other altcoin. Accumulation pattern, nice strong weekly to signal reversal breakout, and then over the next week, 2 weeks or so, cross over the 20-day moving average, and then all you do really is just hold on for dear life, or hodl as they say, or whatever. Rep looks like Wabi. Why does it keep going back to theta? Nope, maybe not. Yeah, that's what it was. Yep, rep looks like Wabi. Okay, so moving averages crossed, a little bit of a doji candle. Right now this one is showing a little bit of a drop. This one closed as a doji as well. And then the following week got a bigger break. You can see the gap here between the 7 and the 20 on Wabi. So now what we want to see on the next weekly, going into next week rather, it could happen pretty well at any time, is continuation of the moving averages. And we want to see some space between the 7 and the 20 here. And that space is going to be that continuation pattern. So it still looks like it's in a pretty good uptrend. 2 week, looking at a bull cross there. Let me get rid of this other damn chart. Still showing a nice bull cross there. Price candle well above that 7-day moving average there. So the uptrend is still showing pretty good. I'm sorry, let me go to 4 hour instead. Man, these coins are just creeping up and nobody's really paying attention. This already did 70% to the top there. It's 50% off of the bottom. And it took about 3 weeks to get there. Yeah, I mean, this is still in an uptrend. Look how it's curling right here on this 4 hour, and it's still holding that support above the 100-day moving average there. So it's still showing an uptrend. I would be worried if this rolled over and crossed below the 100-day right there, and then maybe dug a little bit deeper to find support back here. Because again, if you remember the 2-week Bitcoin chart, if it loses the 20, look around the 100. If it loses the 100, look around the 200. So the 200, that's ugly. That's a little bit better. Something like that. Now again, this is only if there was a rejection and not breaking a new high. If this were to just come up and then roll back over so the MACD can get a deeper reset like that and then push, that is definitely plausible. So price action would do the same, break up here and then roll and then fall back and come back and test that support zone. So I would certainly watch that. So this is going to be your key level right here to break and get above. Okay, see how the tops of these candles here scrape the bottoms of these candles here. So this is the resistance zone. Rep needs to get above or watch for rejection. So that's going to be a key level right there, about 1340, 1350 or so. If there's a price action break above, then it should use that now as a support to continue the trend. If it looks like, it looks like it's wanting to come up and test some resistance. So if it comes up and it fails and rolls back over, then it's going to come back down a little bit, dig deeper. But if you're swing trading it, I think even on swing trade level, it still looks fine as far as the weekly patterns go. So again, this weekly candle could open or close or whatever, stay right this as a doji candle. This next weekly candle can pretty well do what it wants. It can come back down and test, 1150 or so, just as I showed you, and then push. So it can come down a little bit and then catch a push before the next candle close. So then it would push it into a wick. Or I really don't see it just coming over and just grinding out. Everything seems to be in a pretty solid uptrend. So for swing trading, I think it still looks fine for a swing trade, but again, on the lower time frame, if you're not in it, you can catch a good rebuy zone right around that 1150, 1180 mark or something. But again, that is dependent on how it reacts up here with this price up here, with this resistance zone. So a lot is going to depend on how it reacts up here and see if it closes over. Okay, y'all done yet? My jaw is hurting talking a lot. I'm seeing some really nice setups on the weeklies. Even Nano still looks good. O&T I think still, O&T still looks pretty good. So I'm not seeing any major breakdowns across the board for alts. Now again, a lot of that of course is dependent on what happens with Bitcoin. Yes, if Bitcoin gets any kind of major surge, if it gets 3 or 4% pop in a single candle, yes, that will affect alts, but only on lower time frames. I don't see altcoins making new lows. So if you're buying AGI down here, this is an overall bottom structure. Even Theta's overall bottom structure. WAN is still mostly overall bottom structure. So even any kind of Bitcoin move, I don't see altcoins making new lows. They may just only drop on low time frames, and then once Bitcoin is done being a little bitch, altcoins will pop right back up. Because this is what I've been watching on alts for the past few weeks. Anytime Bitcoin has made any kind of surge, They're not making new lows. They're just falling back to heavy support zones where there's a bunch of buy walls, and they're getting dumped into big whale bid walls. So they're feeling the whale's bids and shaking out all the newbies and kiddies. So that's what I see across the board right now. I mean, you could pretty well throw money at any decent altcoin with some decent fundamentals and pretty well just ride them out until, Thanksgiving, or not Thanksgiving, that's next week, until Christmas or something, and still see pretty significant gains. I think we're at that point now when we're looking at weekly charts that, put some money in somewhere, something that you like, and something that shows some strong trend, like ZIL. This is a very strong weekly candle, for example, and then just let these ride out until the end of the year, and before you know it, we'll be up here around 300 Satoshi for 200-300% gains. Waves is really annoying. Waves is another swing trade. I'm still in this little bastard. I'm still gonna ride it and play it. Doesn't look too terrible, but again, look at the 7-day, holding all of these price candles under it as resistance. So what we need to get a push at least to 1,000 Satoshi and get a candle above the 7-day moving average. And this is what I expect going into next week. So I expect the my mouse is so sensitive. So I expect the 7-day to come out like that and finish rounding out and kind of start scraping and flatten out as we get some price candles above. And then we catch that reversal uptrend, and then price candles follow. I probably could have done a copy paste of some of these candles instead of this squiggly, but I mean, it's easier to do the squiggly. So this is how you read 7-day moving averages. When they curl up and show that uptrend, price is going to follow, and we want to see candles holding above the 7-day moving average as support for those confirmation of continuation of uptrends. So for waves, we still got target up here to reach. We got a more local target that we got to get above around, maybe that may be too high. Screw it, my mouse isn't grabbing it. So, I mean, yeah, waves is at that point where it's showing some strength. It may catch this candle above it next week, holding to get above that 7-day right there. But it's just another one that's in a bottom structure. It's got strong fundamentals, but it was just horribly beaten down. But, I mean, that's how this game is played. So it's going to do this number, and then like every other altcoin going into spring of next year, before halving, they're going to go on pretty significant runs. And then I think right around Bitcoin halving or so, right around February, March timeframe, I would probably be looking to get out of alts altogether. As when they come up and do these big runs, they'll fall right back down. And then we'll get another buying opportunity going into next summer or something. And that's how these charts develop over time. I mean, look how long it took, for this downtrend and then a nice big pop. This is weekly, so it took a month for waves to go, what was this, 350% last time? 400%. 420% in a month. This is off the Microsoft partnership. Then it's been just in a downtrend ever since. This is a year. So this is a year that it took for this to find a bottom, and it's going to take a couple months maybe to hit some come up and find a nice gain and then fall back, and then probably summer. That's it. So early spring, I'd probably be looking to get out of altcoins altogether, and then maybe just wait until summertime. early to midsummer next year to reload, and then that's pretty much all she wrote. Whatever altcoins are still alive around then, I'd imagine those are the ones that are just going to make it, you know, in the future. Oh, you're doing this on dollar pair? Ooh, dollar pair is ugly. You think 90 cents before pump? Well, I would pretty well imagine that 90 cents would be a pump. I mean, close, that's 20%. Well, you're right. I mean, the dollar pair looks like trash. The Bitcoin pair doesn't look too terrible. So this is going under for the US dollar pair. I would hopefully maybe not expect it to test 70 cents one more time. Or I think you meant to say 70 cents before pump, now 76 cents, not 90 cents before 76. Which I'm inclined to agree there. So if you're saying 70 cents and this MACD is looking pretty bare, yeah, I can see this scraping down, hitting that support zone around 70, 71, and then pushing. Yeah, I can certainly believe that. Because on the US dollar pair, this hasn't flattened out and rode enough for enough accumulation, enough consolidation. Because look at the downtrend. The downtrend has pretty well just been broken. So there's the downtrend break right there, something like that. And now it's riding sideways. So yeah, I mean, on the dollar pair, I'd expect a good bit more consolidation before pushing. Yeah. Okay, I'm getting off here. I'm tired. I'm gonna go catch a little nap, and then we'll check to see what happens throughout the evening and see how the chart develops. It's date night tonight, so I got to take the wifey out to dinner. Well, I'm going to hop off here, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to hit the like button. Be sure, of course, to let us know if you guys have any questions or any problems with any of the charts or channels, or you're uncertain about anything. I think we have a really, really strong group. I think everybody is really helping each other, which is a huge help to us, but it's also really great to see that you guys are really in tune with the group and with each other. And then tomorrow, I think we'll talk about the Bybit competition and see if we still have enough people interested in doing that. Because I think registration for that is on Monday. So we'll see how many people are interested and whether if we have enough for one team or if we may need to make 2 teams. Okay, so I hope you guys, learned something while watching these live streams. Yeah. Okay, so thanks, guys.